Good evening and salutations, my YNL fans. This episode just left me with so many questions. One of them, again, is how is this show number one? Let's start with old Billy Boy. So he can't sleep. And first I'm wondering, like, why do I care? But they made a big deal about this. They've been making kind of a deal about this for at least a couple episodes now. So after Lily goes to bed or goes to rest or whatever, lay down, he looks online to try to find ways to help him sleep, and he comes across something as far as like meditating and reflecting. So I was sitting there thinking he's just gonna sit down and just cross his legs and just kind of woosah this whole thing out of him. But instead, he decides to get his phone and starts monologuing, starts asking all these questions about why he can't sleep and, what is troubling him. And the thing about this scene is that I felt like it would have worked really great in a book. Like if you were reading a book, I felt like this is one of those things that would have worked better in a book than it would have been as far as seeing this, like, you know, play out in an actual scene. Because on one hand, it is kind of interesting to sit there and see his thought process and, to kind of have him go through this, I don't know, whatever you want to sit there and call it. Um, just questioning some of the decisions that he made, realizing that he has a lot of good stuff in his life and, what is really holding him back or what is really that's still troubling him. So he goes through this whole monologue throughout the rest of the episode. And there's one point where Lily comes downstairs and, he's still sitting there, talking into his phone or whatever. And I'm just looking at this whole thing and I'm like, why are you just standing there not saying anything? Like she literally just walked downstairs and was just like, and then when he turns around, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." I'm like, "What do you mean you're sorry? You could have just said, 'Hey, what's going on?' Instead of just standing there like a creep." Like it just was so weird that she just kind of stood there. And I guess in my mind, I was sitting there thinking like maybe one of his troubles is the fact that um, that he does resent her in some sort of way because she is in charge and she got the position that he wanted. So I thought he was going to sit there and say something, about that, and she would have been like, "Oh, okay," and it would have kind of caused some sort of problems, and maybe they would have worked it out or whatever. But no, he just kept talking, and then he turns around and she's just right there. So she's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to, and intrude or whatever," and he's like, "You want to sit there and listen to it?" And she's like, "No, well, if it's like a like a little therapy thing or whatever." Those are your thoughts, those are your private thoughts or whatever. I'm going to respect that. He's like, no, 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 no. It's nothing private or whatever. And I was like, I don't know how to say this, but, it's good. Maybe there is some things that you do want to kind of keep private. I mean, let's be honest. We're not 100% honest with everyone all the time. Like, it is okay to keep some things private, you know? But he was just like, no, 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 you can sit there and listen. So, she sat there and listened. She was like, oh, it's deep or whatever. And granted, it was deep, but it was also just like this, like, maybe it's just me. It just didn't feel like it really played out well, you know, as far as like, just watching him talk into his phone or whatever, as opposed to just reading a book and having this guy kind of, process his thoughts and stuff like that. It just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. Um, I don't know this character, Chelsea, um, but she clearly can't get over Adam. you know, and she's laying in bed and she's thinking about Adam and she can't sleep. So she wakes up. Well, she not even wakes up, but she decides to call, um, I guess Chloe. But she's busy with her daughter or whatever. After her daughter saw a scary movie because that was a good idea. So Chelsea's like, no, 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 it's fine. Get back to your daughter, whatever. So she goes. I'm not gonna lie. There's one point where after she finished talking to Chelsea, Chloe, whatever. I think that's her name, Chloe. She calls room service or someplace, and she's like, "Can you bring my car down? I'm gonna sit there and take a drive somewhere." And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man, wouldn't that just be nice? If you could just call down front desk or whatever, it's like, oh, bring my car around, as opposed to you just sit there walking to go and get it. It just, I don't know. So she goes to some cafe and she runs into Ray, which, by the way, uh, you know, I'm not even gonna erase that video. I think in my first video, I just called him the wrong name, and I just kept calling him the wrong name. And it's weird because, again, if you go on Google, you type up, YNR characters, they'll bring you a list of characters. And I could have swore his name was something else. The hell did I call him? I called him Brad. I called him Brad. Throughout the whole episode, I called him Brad. And finally, when they decided to call him Ray, I was like, it is Ray. Well, I feel pretty stupid now. But yeah, it's just a good thing. This is to say that I'm still learning the names, but damn, I went through like a whole 14, 12 minute video of calling him by the wrong name. Anyway, she winds up meeting up with him, and she starts telling her stories about growing up with her mom and all these different cons that they used to sit there and pull. Um, Now, at some point, Philip does wind up leaving Abby. Abby's upstairs sleeping, the nanny's there, and Dom is down, taking his, sleeping or whatever. So he's like, you know what? He calls up Ray, and he's like, yo, I need to sit there and do something to get my mind off of like this, something to kind of, get my mind off of Dom and worrying and stuff like that. So he agrees to go out on a stakeout with Ray, and not Brad. So at some point, Chelsea's in the middle of her story, and Philip gets there. He was like, "Oh, no, 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 no! It seemed like it was a pretty interesting story. Like what you was doing and what you went through and everything like that." And he's like, "I want to sit there and know more." And so, she's like, "All right, well, sit down, but just let you know, whatever crimes I committed, it's way past the statutory limit. So, just saying." So he sits down and she starts telling more of her stories. And then after she leaves, they decide to go on a stakeout. I'm telling you, this episode from Billy monologuing on his phone to this scene. Because, okay, so he's on this, how do I say that? Ray tells him about the stakeout, which is about this robber that's going around like robbing people and stuff like that, robbing different places, and so they're at this back alley, and they're talking about Dom for a little bit. Now they see the guy, or I'm assuming the perp, maybe it's the girl, I don't know. So you see him, and Ray's like, "All right, listen, I'm gonna go around back. I'm gonna circle around back, and I need you to sit there and like cut him off or whatever." So he starts walking. Ray starts walking, and then there's some point where Ray leaves and he's still looking to see what's going on. Now, I don't know if it was a shot or if somebody dropped something. I have no idea what happened. At first, I thought that Philip got shot. But then I kind of realized it was like maybe he didn't get shot. Maybe it was like a panic attack. Like maybe. Because here's the thing I don't know why he wasn't on the force for a little bit, but I'm guessing that whatever it was very traumatic because the minute he heard that sound, I don't know if it was a gunshot or whatever, he froze. So I'm sitting there like, oh man, he wasn't ready to go back to work. Like, you know, and when you're in those type of situations, you literally rely on your partner for backup for like literally life and death decisions. And he clearly was not ready to sit there and go back out on the field. So the next scene happens, and Abby is asleep, and Philip walks in, and Abby's like, "Oh man, you're back. You're back really fast. Like, what happened? Is everything all right?" And Philip was like, "Yeah, well, I realized this is where I needed to be." And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, bro, you were supposed to have his back. What happened? Did you just? I'm literally sitting there was like, did you just like leave him hanging? Like he's trying to catch a robber, and you just said, "Oh, I'm good. I'm just gonna go back home." Yeah, it's Superman and Lois coming on today. I'm just gonna just kind of just chill out. Like, what happened? Did he tell Ray? Like, like I said, this episode was just. I'm still trying to figure out what it is I just saw. He just went back home and just. What happened to Ray? Is he okay? Is he shot? Is he mad? Like I feel like I really need to know that, and I just don't understand how this episode played out. Anyway, after Chelsea thanked them for kind of listening and everything like that, she goes back to the hotel and she's looking at her bed and she's feeling lonely again, so she decides to sleep on the couch or whatever that chair was. So she lays down, and then at first it looks like Ray comes in. He's like, "Oh, I was just so fascinated by your story. I want to know more." Like I'm like he was just sitting there hitting on her, and then he starts kissing her, and then you realize that she's just having a dream, and I feel like I need to sit there and say this, and I'm not gonna sit there and be all like gross or whatever, but I'm like, you know, Billy and Chelsea are both having problems sleeping. I don't know how to sit there and say it without being gross, and I kind of don't want to say that, but at the same time, I'm like, well, at least in Chelsea's case, I mean, there are methods that I feel like she can use to help her go to sleep. I like to call it the nuclear option, but late, and she's having all these different fantasies anyway about Adam and now Ray. There are things that can kind of take care of that. Yeah, leave it right there. I think that's about it. I don't know how everyone else felt about this episode, but this episode was just so confusing in so many ways, and there was just things that didn't really seem like it made a lot of sense. Um, there was stuff that was just didn't seem like it worked. It was not a good episode. But the one thing that I always find really, I don't know if I sit there and say the word interesting or funny, but even when an episode is bad, I still have fun talking about it. And that is kind of the one saving grace when I start doing some of these reviews, because I realize that not every episode is going to be a banger, it's going to be great or whatever, but I always feel like talking about it. Even if I'm pointing out stuff that's either silly or stupid or just pisses me off, I always have fun doing it. I always have fun doing it. So, anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna get going. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, specifically about this episode. And if this worked for you, or if this episode was good for you, please tell me why. Because I am at a loss. I'm at a loss. But I'm remembering more characters' names, so that's cool. So yeah, thank you for watching. Be safe, and I will see you in the next video.